Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a review video here on the channel. We haven't done one in a while. I have a playlist for them. There's only a couple things in there. We've got a lot of questions about the 2600 Eskimo Eskape series. So I'm going to do my best to review this 2600 Eskape, as well as show you all of the modifications I made. I'm going to start the video off with the review. I will then go into all the modifications I made. At the end of the video, we'll get all the information, the review, and my opinion out of the way first. Now I just want to start this review by trying to stay as organized as possible. I actually wrote my thoughts down for once. I never do that. I usually just spill it. The 2600 series is an 80-gram insulated flip over two-person shack. There is 26 square feet of fishable area, and I'll get to why that's kind of an understatement here once we start really talking about the shack. But 26 square feet of fishable area, two massive side doors, as you can see here. They're very oversized and they're very nice. Once it's all put together and everything is on there, when you're lifting it in the truck, it's going to be about 115 pounds according to the booklet. I've added a lot of stuff, so I'm not sure what mine weighs, but with two people, it's pretty easy. With one person, you're definitely going to need some sort of ATV ramp. If you're trying to do this thing alone, it's going to be a little cumbersome trying to get it alone, but it is manageable. I think you could do it if you got some ATV ramps for the bed of your truck. I think it's possible. The setup and teardown isn't too bad as a single person, so keep that in mind. Before we get into my detailed opinions in this review, I just want to say for the price point, I've seen it as cheap as $619, as expensive as $699. I don't think you can beat this shack for that price. I do not think there's a shack on the market that checks as many boxes in the pro column as this one does. Full transparency, I obviously didn't go look at every single shack available, every single flip over available, but I did go to 3 stores, Gander Mountain, Fleet Farm, and Cabela's, and went and sat in all the different models, the Fraybills, the Otters. I went in everything that I could, and at the end of the day, I decided this matches what I need more than anything else. And let's go over what those things are real quick. I did go over why I got this in detail in my gear video. Click here. But just a quick rundown, I wanted something with side doors that I could stand up in that was short enough to fit in the bed of the truck. That was like my 3 main factors when it came to buying a flip over. And this one does all 3 of those the best, I believe. Speaking of fitting in the truck, let's go over some dimensions because I know those can be very important. You get 5 foot 3 inches wide, or 64 inches roughly. You get 6 foot 4 tall, even on the inside. It's 77 inches. And it's 8 foot 1 inches long from front to back when it is opened up. There is 26 square feet of fishable area, and that is roughly 5.5 by 5.5. It's pretty square in there. It's a little longer than it is wide, 5 foot by 5 foot. That's what you can imagine the fishable area as. And I had said that's kind of an understatement because of this. The front of this shack stands very straight up and down. In the Otters specifically, they were very angled. So if you didn't have your front support pull in, the first like 1.5 feet, 2 feet of the shack was unusable because the fabric was laying over that area. You couldn't really use it for anything. You couldn't fish it because you wouldn't be able to set a hook. You could maybe set your Vexilar in there, but also the heater would have to be away from it because it would be too close. So the front of this shack being as straight up and down as it is was definitely a massive bonus for me. I wanted to use every inch of this area, and you can. Because of how square this front end is, that 26 square feet is 100% usable. It is a fantastically under-marketed part of this shack for sure. Let's hop inside the shack and I'll show you some of the features that are inside that I thoroughly enjoy. All right, now we are on the inside of the shack, and this is where I think this shack excels over many others. One, like I had said, you can stand up all the way, you still have headspace. I'm 6 foot tall with my boots on, My head comes nowhere near it. It's 77 inches to that top bar. You can walk all the way to the front of the shack and your head barely touches the fabric with a hat on. So the space inside is very nice. Some of the features we go over with the seats. These seats go forward and back all the way. So I mean, that gives you a lot of relaxation room, if you will. You can reach stuff in your sled easier behind this other seat here. You can slide all the way forward while you're fishing, depending on where your hole is or what you have going on. And they also slide. They're not the greatest sliders, I'll admit that right away, but they do slide left and right a total of, I'd call it, 4 inches. So I keep my right seat a little more off the wall, gives plenty of room still to fish, catch those fish, pull them out of the hole, and then the left seat I push right up against the wall. These seats also, as you can see, tilt up, and with the Velcro hooks that were included, you can hang them. So if you're out alone or you need to get in your sled for whatever reason, you can lift that seat up, hook it up, and it is out of your way. You have all the space in that sled that you need. Speaking of the sled, you have inside dimension of 32 by 58 by 1 foot. It's 12 inches deep. I have a runner kit on here, so the top of the lip actually sits at like 13 and a half. If you want to use the inside space of this sled, I would say the first, what is that? It's roughly the first 1 foot of the sled is the angle, so you only get roughly 46 inches of flat space in the bottom of this sled. That's not a lot, but like I said, I chose this shack to slide into the back of the truck with the tonneau cover closed. That was like my #1 criteria. So that explains the sled size. Now the sled material is very thick. It's not the thickest you can buy, but it's definitely no flex to it whatsoever. From dragging it out, lifting it in the back of the truck quite a few times, I see no issues with the rigidity of this sled. Moving on to the windows, which is very important if you're a tip-up fisherman like me. You like to jig, but you also like to see. You have 4 large windows that are zipper and Velcro, so that there is no light bleed if you want to do any sort of spearing in this shack, which you could definitely do with the space that you have. You have 1 on each door, you have 1 in the front and 1 in the back. But then you also have these 2 side windows right next to your face. Those are very convenient. I've been using those for tip-ups that we set up in our depth of water. We put them straight out left or right. And you can see them very easily. The front window is a perfect height to be looking in front of you. If that tip-up is just far enough away, everything is in view perfectly. I'm quite satisfied with the windows. Now the plastic material is kind of hard to see through at times, not because of the moisture or anything, that happens to all of them. But they're a little, when they're wrinkly, they're real hard to see through. So you gotta make sure that they are very tight on that Velcro. It'll help a lot. So I'm gonna start this pro-cons list here where I'm sitting. Massive pro for the flexibility of these seats being able to slide back and forth, left and right. I love that. A lot of them that we went and looked at had the bars that go from the front to the back, if you will, side to side, and that's all your flexibility. You couldn't slide those seats back and forth. I love the ability to hang this seat out of the way. We've used that a lot, just on 2 trips already. Hanging our seat out of the way, using the space we need, or getting in the container that I've put in. It's been very handy. So the flexibility of these seats is incredible. You can also pull 2 pins, take one of the seats completely out, and you can just fish solo if you want as well. 2 shorter trips for evening, and I have 0 complaints about the comfort of these seats. Now, I haven't sat in those cushy clam ones or anything like that. I haven't sat on the bench seats at all, but I have fished on these for 2 outings, and I find them comfortable enough, if you will. The rigidity is a beautiful thing. There's no flex because of the all-metal design. It's comfortable because of the rigidity. I know my boat seats, they're pretty flexible because they're cheaper. Now, there's a lot of cushion compared to these, but they're just not comfortable. So you just got to be mindful of the misleading looks of these seats. And at the end of the day, if they're really bad, you can just get a piece of foam, like a tree stand hunting seat warmer, and you could set that in here pretty easily. And the seats would still fold with that on, and you could just clip them on. I think that's a good solution if you find these seats to be too uncomfortable. However, you could easily put a different seat on the bases that come with this and still use it almost exactly the same. You wouldn't be able to fold it up, I don't believe, because if the back couldn't fold, things like that. But there are a lot of options with just the bars that they give you to add whatever seat you want as well. And that comes in the modification stage, which we're getting to. But I think you could sit comfortably in the seat for hours without a problem. Like I said, you can slide back and you just have all the room in the world to just stretch and relax. Now that we're kind of getting into opinions on the shack, talking about the seats and things, let me tell you what I don't like about this shack. There are only a couple of things that I do not like about this shack. One, there's no back door access. Now that's not the end of the world. With the modifications I made, I don't really see myself needing a back door, but it would be a nice option to have, to be able to open up a back door to reach in while you're outside doing stuff. Especially since I have like a dipper in here and things like that, it would be convenient to be able to have back door access. And I would say my biggest complaint about this shack is nowhere for these flaps to live once you have them open for the windows. They kind of just, they hang in the way quite a bit. I will be adding some sticky Velcro and just finding a home that I can stick them to the door so they're out of the way, but out of the box there's nowhere for them to go. These, conveniently enough, can go behind the pole on the corners here, but all of the front and side and back, they don't have a home, so they just kind of sit here, and they can be in the way. But that really wraps up my complaints. All the cons, the things I don't like. Coming in at a price point so low compared to its competitors, I was afraid the material was gonna, easily rip while I was setting it up, or the poles were gonna bend, and I haven't experienced that yet. Now, I haven't really pushed this to its limits, so I haven't been dragging it behind the side-by-side, bouncing it off the ice, nothing like that yet. So, that's something that at the end of the year we'll be able to speak on a lot better. But overall, I hope that answers most of your questions about what this shack is. There's not a lot of info out there. They just have their marketing material and only a couple of reviews online. So I wanted to come through, do a quick overview of things that weren't talked about in detail and show you what it looks like and my opinion on it. I still, after using it a few times, do not believe you can beat the price. This shack is amazing for the price point. Every other shack at this price point has a major downside for me. You can't stand up in, or it doesn't have side doors, or the seat is a bench seat. There's always something with them. I don't think there's a drawback to this one in that way, and that's why I decided to buy it. So, in my humble opinion, this shack is amazing. If you're thinking about getting it, I don't think you'll regret the decision once you own it. And that kind of wraps up the review process. If there is anything that I missed that you're very curious about, put it in the comments below. I check every comments. I don't get a ton of views, so I will see all of your comments. I can answer your questions, things like that. I've already been doing it in my gear video. People have asked about it, and I kept telling them, I'm doing this video today. So we're recording it and posting it as soon as I started getting questions about it. But there's so much more to talk about. Let's talk about the modifications that I have made personally that I think could suit a lot of people, depending on your fish style. If you're just pulling this out behind you, dragging it, this next bit of information is not for you. It's not ideal for that situation. I've done it twice now, but I don't think it's ideal. So let's just hop into some modifications and show you what I've done. We're gonna attempt to do some handheld action here, so pardon the shakiness. Step one of every shack I own, I put a strip of LEDs in the roof somewhere. Now, on this shack, you gotta be careful about what kind you buy because the support bars, you can't put it on the front or the back because the support bars will break it off. So you have to make sure that those lights can fit under your support bar. So it makes it a little difficult to put more lights in. I wanted to put lights all over the place. I wasn't able to because of the support bar or because they move up and down, left and right. I have put 1 strip, 2 strip, 3 strips, that one's on the sled on the inside, of lights for the storage compartment area. As you just got a little behind the scenes before I got there, but I put a floor in, buckets, things like that. So I put strip lights on there, so at night when you're reaching behind you trying to find stuff, it's all lit up very nicely. Now before we get to the storage compartment, the most important part of tricking your trap, if you will, let's lay the floor out. Now as you can see, I pinched rubber flooring with a 2x2 to the sled. This has held pretty well. I've had to add a few extra Velcro straps to it at this point. I got 1, 2, 3 on there. But this rubber flooring from Northern Tool, this rubber flooring is an 1/8 of an inch thick. It is 64 by 84. And I didn't cut it down, and I'll show you why. But let's lay this floor out quick, and I will show you what I did for that as well. So by not cutting it perfectly to size, it works out really nice because this extra flap holds everything in place on the front bar. So that rubber holds everything real tight. So that's why I decided not to cut it down, but let's go inside. Now you don't have to do something as extravagant as this, but I do suggest getting, click together squares, some sort of flooring to keep your feet up off the ice. Now let's dive into the overkill part. Now like I had said before, this shack was built in mind to be drug behind the side-by-side at all times, never really unhooked. So everything lives in the side-by-side, as you can see there. My iFish Pros, my minnow bucket, that may come in here while you're fishing, but regardless. A couple extra buckets with a shovel and things. My rods are all in there. My auger goes in there, the heater goes in there. Everything fits in the side-by-side. So all I wanted room for in here is a couple of things that you'd want to keep in here. The Vexilars, for example, I have 2 of them. They both fit in this bucket underneath the seat with the cover on. So I put them in there before we go fishing. We close the bucket up and they're in the shack ready to go right away. I put a bucket in here, which holds just towels and extra stuff, garbage at times, and hopefully fish at some point. But we also have a live well, so you don't really need it till the end, and at that point you can put it in the bucket in the side-by-side. I didn't put anything recessed into this side of the sled. One, it would have to be a little off center because of the slope of the sled. It wouldn't sit all the way down on the bottom anyway, so that's just floor space. And it comes in handy for random stuff that you need that just kind of flops around while you're in the shack. And it works out great because there's still room. Pull this seat down quick. Oh, come on, there we go. Because there is a good amount of room underneath those bars. And with filming, I have a couple of boxes on the left here that hold my batteries and camera stuff, and then it's nice to just flop the cameras onto the floor and not have to worry about it getting wet or damaged or anything like that. So it's really convenient to have a floor put in. Now my floor is built with 2x2s around the edge, and then it's a 1/4 inch plywood covered in carpet. Nothing fancy, not green treat, nothing moisture, the cheapest stuff I could find at the store, which is getting more difficult these days. And that's how I did it. I recessed in this plywood, so there's an edge so you can set stuff on, you don't have to worry about it flying out. And then in that floor I cut the bucket hole, another basket hole, if you will. This just holds random extra stuff as well as the Vexilars and batteries. And then I bought a center console from Walmart. Well, actually I didn't get this one at Menards, but you can go to any car section and just find one of those convenient car holders, and I just simply screwed it to the floor. That holder has my light switch as well as a USB port in the back. Underneath this, I just have a tiny hole where the wires all run down to, and I have the battery. Actually, I'll show you the battery. Give me 1 second. So once you have the container out, you can see I have just nothing in there. I do have an extra tip-up pad in there, just floating around underneath, not hurting anything, not having to deal with it. You could probably put a bunch more stuff in there that you really don't need, but you want in an emergency case. But regardless, there is my battery. I just built a little box for it and screwed it from the outside. And I just simply have all the wires hooked to one switch. Now, I could have ran multiple switches, multiple wires. I planned on it, but once I had stuff in here, I was like, well, it can't all be on one switch. It's not gonna hurt anything. So that pretty much wraps up everything that I have done. Now, I did purchase the running kit for it because I knew I was gonna be pulling it behind the side-by-side all year. I didn't want the sled to wear through. So I bought the Eskimo running kit for it. That was really easy to install. Drill some holes, put some bolts in. Really easy. I also put brackets on the front and the back for towing. And then I built my own tow bar. I just had some extra pipe laying around from something, no idea. Flattened it a little, drilled a hole in it. That goes to the side-by-side. And then this goes to the sled, some extra angle iron. I got holes in that hook up and hook up to the brackets. And you have a tow bar for free if you got enough stuff laying around. This should work well. We'll find out. Like I said, a lot of this we'll find out when we're on Mille Lacs and we're ripping around mud flats, how well all this holds up. I'll let you know if anything goes wrong. But I think I have rambled on long enough as far as the shack goes. Like I had said, if you have any questions about it, ask me. I can come measure stuff. I can come be the judge of things and answer for you. I didn't want to go in too much detail. I've already talked too much as it is, but I could go over way more details about the lights. I could go way over details about the floor, things like that. But I don't think you guys need it. If you're looking for ideas, that's all you wanted. If you're trying to find something specific, ask me. I can put it in the comments below. But that wraps it up. That is the review and the modifications and the Trip Your Trap stuff that I did to my Eskimo Eskape 2600 series. And just for a quick recap, I bought it because I wanted side doors. I wanted to be able to stand up and it needed to fit underneath the tonneau cover of my truck. It accomplishes those things fantastically. But that is going to do it for today's video. I have already rambled way too long as it is. But like I said, if you have any questions, make sure to put them in the comments below. If you have any comments about what you think I could do better or differently, put those in the comments below as well. And if you made it this far in the video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, see all my videos. We'll be taking this puppy out twice this weekend, so you got fishing videos coming your way. And that's it. I don't think I forgot anything. I think I listed the important details, so make sure that you comment, like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, we'll see you on the ice.